Welcome back, everyone. Today's story is one that mixes Hollywood history, rock and roll legend, family love, and one detail that left fans across generations stunned. Because when people talk about inheritance, they usually expect the story to be about numbers, dollar signs, and legal documents. But in this case, it became something much deeper, more emotional, and more surprising. Because Valerie Bertinelli, America's sweetheart turned television host and cookbook author, found herself at the center of an inheritance story tied to none other than the late, great Eddie Van Halen, the rock guitarist who changed music forever. And the way this story unfolded has left fans everywhere saying the same thing. Valerie. Bertinelli's inheritance shocks everyone, so let's take the time to walk through the full picture, step by step, so that by the end of this video, you'll understand why this story has fascinated so many people. Because it isn't just about wealth, it's about love, loyalty, and the kinds of bonds that last even when marriages end and even when people pass away. Now first, let's remember who Valerie Bertinelli is. Because depending on your age, you may know her from very different stages of her career. For those who grew up in the 1970s, Valerie burst onto the scene as Barbara Cooper on the hit sitcom One Day at a Time, where she played the girl next door type that instantly made her a household name, and she won over audiences with her warmth, relatability, and natural charm. The role earned her 2 Golden Globe Awards, and for millions of viewers, she became a part of their weekly routine. For those who tuned in during the 2000s, you may remember her as Melanie on Hot in Cleveland, the TV land sitcom that gave her career a second wind and introduced her to a new generation of fans. And for those who watch Food Network, you might know her as the host of Valerie's Home Cooking or Kids Baking Championship, where her friendly, down-to-earth personality makes everyone feel at home in the kitchen. Over the years, Valerie has also become an author, releasing cookbooks and memoirs where she opened up about her struggles with weight, body image, self-esteem, and relationships, making her one of the most relatable celebrities out there. She never pretended to be perfect. Instead, she connected with audiences by being honest about her ups and downs. And in her personal life, her biggest chapter came when she married Eddie Van Halen in 1981. Now, this was not just any marriage. Eddie Van Halen was, by that point, a rock superstar, the lead guitarist and co-founder of Van Halen, a band that defined rock in the late 70s and 80s with hits like Jump, Panama, and Hot for Teacher. Marrying Eddie meant Valerie's life instantly became part of rock and roll history. Together, they were the Hollywood and rock world power couple, the actress and the guitarist. Fans loved them. The media followed them everywhere. And when their son Wolfgang was born in 1991, the family became even more of a fascination for fans around the world. But as glamorous as the marriage looked from the outside, life wasn't always easy. Eddie battled addiction and the pressures of fame, while Valerie struggled with trying to balance her career, motherhood, and her marriage. They spent over 20 years together before officially divorcing in 2007. Now here's where things take a surprising turn. Because while many celebrity divorces end with bitterness, court battles, and public fights, Valerie and Eddie managed to remain remarkably close. They co-parented Wolfgang with love and respect, and in interviews, Valerie often said that while they were no longer married, they still shared an unbreakable bond. When Eddie's health began to decline after years of battling throat and lung cancer, Valerie was by his side, not as his wife, but as his lifelong companion and the mother of his only child. In fact, she was holding his hand, along with Wolfgang, in his final moments in October 2020. Now, when Eddie Van Halen passed away, the world mourned the loss of a guitar genius, and naturally questions arose about what would happen to his estate. His wealth was estimated in the tens of millions, consisting of music royalties, publishing rights, his share of the Van Halen brand, real estate, and personal investments. Most fans assumed correctly that Wolfgang, his son, would inherit the majority, since he was not only Eddie's only child, but also a musician himself, already playing bass for Van Halen in its later years, and then launching his own band, Mammoth, WVH. But what shocked everyone was the fact that Valerie Bertinelli still played a role in Eddie's legacy. Despite having been divorced for over a decade, Eddie reportedly ensured that Valerie was taken care of in his will and estate planning. Now, the exact figures remain private, and Valerie herself has never spoken about it in financial terms, but multiple sources and reports have confirmed that Eddie left behind more than just financial security for his son. He left a lasting gesture of love and respect for Valerie, too. And this is where the shock comes in, because in most cases, when couples divorce, especially wealthy celebrity couples, the financial ties are cut, the settlements are made, and that's the end of it. But Eddie and Valerie were different. Even after their divorce, they continued to speak highly of each other, support each other's careers, and most importantly, stand together as parents for Wolfgang. Eddie's decision to include Valerie in his estate wasn't about money. It was about sending a message, showing that their connection endured far beyond the legal definition of marriage. To fans, this was stunning. They expected Wolfgang to inherit, of course, but they did not expect Valerie to still be remembered in this way. And that's why people say Valerie Bertinelli's inheritance shocked everyone, because it revealed just how deep her bond with Eddie truly was. And it's also worth noting that Valerie didn't need the inheritance financially. By that point, she had built her own fortune with an estimated net worth of around $20 million thanks to her acting, hosting, book deals, and other projects. She had long been financially independent, so the inheritance wasn't about money changing her life, it was about Eddie acknowledging the role she played in his. For Wolfgang, the inheritance was not only financial, but also symbolic. He inherited his father's musical legacy, his instruments, his royalties, and his place in rock history. But he also inherited the responsibility of carrying the Van Halen name forward. Valerie has been his biggest supporter, often attending his shows, cheering him on, and encouraging him to pursue his own path while honoring his father's memory. Fans saw this dynamic and realized that Eddie's choices in his estate planning reflected his values: family first, loyalty always, and love that doesn't end with divorce. The public reaction to this was powerful. Many were surprised, some even confused, but most were moved. People said it gave them a new respect for Eddie, showing that he wasn't just a guitar legend, but also a man who cared deeply for the people closest to him, even after circumstances changed. For Valerie, the inheritance represented more than financial security. It represented a final gesture from someone she had loved for most of her life. In interviews and in her memoirs, she has spoken openly about how Eddie was her soulmate in many ways, even though they couldn't make their marriage last. She described being at his side when he passed as one of the most profound moments of her life, and fans who learned about the inheritance realized just how true those words were. It wasn't about headlines or gossip, it was about a family staying, connected until the very end. And when you put all of this together, you can see why Valerie Bertinelli's inheritance shocked everyone. It wasn't about millions of dollars, it was about something far more rare in Hollywood: loyalty, gratitude, and lasting love. Eddie Van Halen left behind more than just music. He left behind a message to Valerie and Wolfgang that they were his true legacy, and that bond has only grown stronger since his passing. Today, Wolfgang continues to tour, record, and honor his father, while Valerie continues to share her journey with fans through her cooking shows, her books, and her open, heartfelt connection with the public. Together, they are keeping Eddie's memory alive, not only through music, but through the love that he left behind. And that's why this story continues to resonate, because at the end of the day, it's not about money, it's about family, it's about love that endures, and it's about the ways people can surprise us even after they're gone. Valerie Bertinelli's inheritance shocked everyone, but it also inspired them, reminding us all that the ties of love, loyalty, and respect can last a lifetime and beyond.